Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are doing something a little different.
A little foundational, I think.
Yeah, foundational is the right word. Usually we take a really complex, thorny topic and try to find the nuance. Today we are taking a topic that everyone thinks they understand, but maybe almost nobody actually does. We are talking about money.
And not just money in the abstract sense, the economy or interest rates or what the Fed is doing. We are talking about personal wealth.
Your money.
Your money, how it is built, how it is lost, and maybe most importantly, the actual mechanics of how it moves.
Exactly. And to do that, we are diving into a whole stack of notes and summaries based on Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which is, you could argue it's the book that launched the entire modern financial literacy movement.
It's a huge one. It's been around for decades for a reason.
It has. But here is the catch, and this is really, really important for everyone listening. We are going to approach this assuming that you, the listener, have absolutely zero prior knowledge of finance. Yeah. We aren't assuming you know what a stock is. We aren't assuming you know what capital gains or equity means. We are stripping this down to the absolute studs.
It's a first principles approach. And honestly, I think that is the only way to really understand this material, because the central thesis, the core idea here, is that most of what we learn about money from our parents, from our schools, from society, it's fundamentally wrong.
Not just incomplete.
No, not just incomplete. It's often the exact opposite of what actually builds wealth.
That is a bold claim to start with. Unlearning is often a lot harder than learning.
Much harder.
But the hook of this source material isn't a spreadsheet. It's a story. It's a narrative about two fathers. And I think that's the best place for us to anchor ourselves before we get into any of the math.
It's the perfect starting point.
So tell us about the two dads.
It's a really powerful narrative device. So the author, Robert Kiyosaki, he describes growing up with these two major father figures who completely shaped his worldview on money. The first one was his biological father, who he calls Poor Dad. Now, poor is a loaded word here, and we need to be clear.
Right. This guy wasn't, destitute. He wasn't unemployed.
Not at all. In fact, he was highly successful by every traditional standard we have. He had a PhD. Yeah. He held a high-level government job in the Hawaii education system. Super intelligent, well-respected, a very hardworking man.
He is the model citizen.
Yeah.
He is the guy who followed the script perfectly. Go to school, get good grades, climb the ladder, get a secure job with benefits, work for 40 years, and then retire with a pension.
Precisely. He followed what we might call the old rules, but, and this is the whole point, despite his high income and his incredible education, he struggled financially his entire life.
Wow.
He died with bills to pay. His whole philosophy was rooted in scarcity and security.
What does that sound like?
It sounds like things you've probably heard. Things like the love of money is the root of all evil.
Okay, yeah.
Or, when his son would ask for something, a new toy or a bike, his default answer was always, I can't afford that.
I think a lot of us heard that growing up. We can't afford that.
Yeah.
And it shuts down the conversation. It's a full stop.
It's a brick wall for your brain.
It is.
And then you have the rich dad.
The second dad.
The second dad. This wasn't his biological father. It was his best friend's dad. And this man was the complete opposite on paper. He never finished the 8th grade.
8th grade.
8th grade. He didn't have the degrees, didn't have the pedigree, but he eventually became one of the wealthiest men in Hawaii. His philosophy was completely 180 degrees different. He believed that the lack of money is the root of all evil.
Whoa. That is a massive flip.
It's a universe apart. And instead of saying, I can't afford it, which, like you said, is a statement that stops your brain from thinking.
It's an answer.
It's an answer. He would reframe it as a question. He would ask, how can I afford it?
Okay, I want to pause on that because on the surface, that seems like just semantics, word games. Is there really a functional, practical difference between saying I can't afford it and asking how can I afford it?
It's huge. The source material argues that it's a neurological difference. It changes how your brain works. When you say I can't afford it, your brain just shuts down. It exhales.
Okay.
Work's over.
My job is done.
Exactly. Yeah. You've accepted a dead end. You might feel a little bad, maybe a little resentful, but you don't have to do any mental work. You've let yourself off the hook.
That's a good way to put it. You're off the hook.
But when you asked, how can I afford it, your brain is forced to go to work. It's been given a problem to solve. It has to start simulating solutions. Okay, maybe I can work an extra shift. Maybe I can sell something I own. Maybe there's a problem I can solve for someone that they'll pay me for. It turns the barrier into a puzzle.
So one mindset is completely passive. You're just accepting the situation as a fact, and the other is active. You're looking for a way to change the situation.
Exactly. The poor dad mindset wants to work for money to survive. Just get the paycheck. The rich dad mindset wants to figure out how money works so he can make it work for him. And that really is the journey we're going to take everyone on today. We are going to break down the mechanics of wealth into a few main lessons, starting with the very first one, which is the trap that keeps most people poor.
Let's talk about that trap. The source material calls it the rat race. And we've all heard that term, right?
Yeah.
Usually it's referring to a long commute or a 9-to-5 grind you don't like.
Yeah, the daily drudgery.
But in this context, it seems to be something much more psychological.
It is deeply psychological. The rat race isn't just about having a job you dislike. It's about being controlled by two primary, very powerful emotions, fear and desire.
Okay, fear and desire. That sounds a bit dramatic for a finance discussion. Break that down for me. How does that actually work?
Okay, think about the average Sunday night. Around 8 p.m., you have that little pit in your stomach, that dread. Why?
Because I have to go to work on Monday. I have a boss to please. I have deadlines to meet. I have projects that are probably late.
Right, but why do you have to go? I mean, really, why not just stay in bed, call in sick forever?
Because I need to pay my rent. I need to buy food. I have a car payment. I have bills. If I don't go, I'm in big trouble.
That is the fear. That is what the source is talking about.
Yeah.
The fear of insolvency, the fear of not having enough, the fear of being on the street. That fear is what drives most people out of bed and into the office. It's the stick that hits the donkey to make it move.
Okay, so fear is the motivator.
It's motivator number one. So you go to work, you trade your time and your life energy, and at the end of the week or 2 weeks, you get a paycheck. And for a moment, the fear subsides. You feel safe.
Relief.
But then almost immediately, what kicks in?
Well, now I have money.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about the things I want.
Exactly. Desire. You see the money in your account. You see a new phone being advertised. You see your friends going on a nice vacation. You want to go out for a nice dinner. The desire says, go spend. You deserve it. You worked hard for it.
Treat yourself.
Treat yourself. So you spend, and the money drains away.
Yeah.
And then what happens at the end of the month?
The fear comes back because the money's gone and the rent is due again.
And the cycle repeats. Fear pushes you to earn. Desire pushes you to spend. Over and over and over. It's a wheel.
And the crucial part that I think a lot of people miss, and the source really hammers this, is that they think more money will solve the problem. They think, if I just get a raise, if I just get that promotion, I'll finally be out of the rat race.
It's the most common financial myth there is. A 10% raise will fix everything.
But it never does it?
Never.
Yeah.
Because if you give a person who is stuck in this mindset a raise, what usually happens?
Their desire just scales up. They don't save the extra money. They buy a bigger house with a bigger mortgage. They get a nicer car with a bigger payment.
Exactly. It has a name. Lifestyle creep. The expenses magically rise to meet the new income, so the wheel doesn't stop. It just gets bigger and spins faster. You're still trapped. You just have nicer stuff around you while you're running.
And more stress, probably, because the fall is even bigger now.
Way more stress. The rich dad argues that you cannot solve a financial problem with more money if the underlying programming, that fear and desire loop, is broken. You have to break the emotional link between working and surviving. You have to get off the wheel entirely.
Okay, so if the trap is working for money because of this fear and desire cycle, what is the alternative? How do we actually break that link? It feels unbreakable.
You have to stop working for money and start building assets.
Ah.
And this brings us to what is, without a doubt, the most critical part of this entire deep dive. If you, the listener, take away absolutely nothing else from this hour we spend together, it has to be this next section. We have to define the vocabulary of wealth.
This is the zero knowledge part. This is where we build the foundation. The source makes a really interesting point, that our schools teach us how to be employees, how to read, write, and compute, but they don't teach us financial literacy. They never teach us what an asset actually is.
Right. And you might think you know what an asset is. If you talk to an accountant, they have a very specific, somewhat complicated definition involving equity and depreciation and balance sheets.
Jargon.
Total jargon. It's not helpful for the average person, but the rich dad definition is brutally, beautifully simple. It's designed for one thing: clarity.
Okay, give it to me. The simple definition.
An asset is something that puts money into your pocket, period. End of sentence.
Puts money into my pocket.
Okay.
And a liability.
A liability is something that takes money out of your pocket.
That's it.
That's it. That's the entire game.
Okay, that sounds almost too simple. I feel like there's a trap here. Let's test this. Let's use some real-world examples.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's say I buy a rare comic book. I'm a collector. I pay you $1,000 for it. Is that an asset?
Let's use the definition. Does it put money in your pocket every month?
No. It sits in a plastic sleeve in a box in my closet.
Then, by this very strict definition, it is not an asset. Not yet, anyway.
But it could go up in value.
It might have value. It might be an investment in the colloquial sense that you hope to sell it for more money later on. But in terms of the flow of money, your cash flow, right now it's either neutral or it's a liability if you're paying for a special safe or insurance to protect it. It's not working for you.
Not putting money in my pocket.
Okay. Get that.
Let's try another one. Stocks. I buy 100 shares of a big company. Asset or liability?
That's a good one. It depends. If the stock pays a dividend, which is just a small check the company sends you every 3 months as a thank you for being an owner, then yes, it is an asset.
Because it's literally putting money in my pocket.
It is literally putting money in your pocket. A check arrives. It is working for you. If it doesn't pay a dividend, then it's like the comic book. It's a speculative investment you hope to sell later.
Okay.
Still valuable, potentially, but not a cash flowing asset by this definition.
Okay. A rental property.
The classic asset. This is the perfect example. You own the building. A tenant lives there. Every month, they pay you rent.
So money comes into my pocket.
Money comes in. Now, you still have expenses, right? You have to pay the mortgage on the building, the taxes, the insurance. But if the rent is, say, $2,000 and your total expenses are $1,500, there's $500 left over.
Positive cash flow.
That's it. That $500 goes into your pocket. You could be sleeping, you could be on vacation in another country, you could be in a coma, and that property is still working, still putting money in your pocket. That is an asset.
Okay, I think I have the definition down. Puts money in, takes money out. Now we have to get to the controversial one. The one that I know makes people really angry when they first hear it.
I know where you're going.
The house I live in, my home, is it an asset?
This is what the source calls the great misconception. And the answer, according to Rich Dad, is unequivocal. Your home is a liability.
Whoa, hold on. I have to push back on this. I'm being the listener right now, and I'm annoyed. My parents told me to buy a house. My banker told me it's a great investment. I pay my mortgage every single month. I'm building equity. The real estate market is going up.
Yeah.
How can you tell me my biggest investment, my home, is a liability? It's my nest egg.
I completely understand the reaction. It goes against everything we've ever been told by everyone we trust. But let's forget what we've been told. Let's just look at the math. Let's follow the cash using our simple definition.
Okay.
Does your house, the one you live in, put money in your pocket every month?
No, of course not. I write a huge check for the mortgage.
Okay, so money's going out for the mortgage. What else?
Property taxes, homeowner's insurance, utilities, heat, electricity, water.
Keep going. What happens if the roof starts to leak or the water heater breaks?
I pay for it. I have to fix it. More money out.
Exactly. Every single month, without fail, the house is a hungry mouth to feed. It removes cash from your ecosystem. It is a continuous cash drain. Even if you pay off the mortgage completely, which is a huge achievement, you still have taxes, insurance, and maintenance for the rest of your life.
It's a money pit.
It can be. It is consistently taking money out of your pocket. Therefore, by the definition, it is a liability.
But what about the value? What about appreciation? If I bought my house for $500,000 and now the one next door just sold for $800,000, isn't that wealth? Haven't I made $300,000?
You have a potential capital gain. But until you sell the house, that value is trapped. It's on paper. You can't go to the grocery store and buy food with your home's equity.
Not unless I borrow against it.
Right. You can take out a home equity loan, but what did you just do? You just created another loan, another liability that takes even more money out of your pocket every month.
So I'm using a liability to create another liability.
Precisely. The Rich Dad point isn't don't buy a home. It's don't buy a home and fool yourself into thinking it's an asset that is going to make you rich. It's a luxury. It's a place to live. It's an expense, a very large one.
So if I get a raise and I buy a bigger, more expensive house, thinking I'm investing in my future, what I'm actually doing is just increasing my liabilities column. I'm making myself poorer on a monthly basis.
You are building a bigger, more expensive cage for yourself in the rat race.
Yes.
And this leads us perfectly to the next core concept, which is cash flow.
The direction the money moves.
Exactly. We need to visualize this for the listener. Imagine a blank sheet of paper.
Okay, I'm visualizing it.
At the top of the page, draw a box. That's your income statement. It has 2 columns, income, which is money coming in, and expenses, money going out.
Got it. Income and expenses at the top.
Now, at the bottom of the page, draw another box. That's your balance sheet. It also has two columns, assets and liabilities.
Okay, 2 boxes on the page.
Cash flow is simply the arrow that shows the story of where the money moves between these boxes. So let's look at the cash flow pattern for a poor person. The arrow goes, Job provides income, and that income immediately goes to expenses. Rent, food, transport.
In and out.
In and out, hand to mouth. The asset and liability columns are basically empty. It's just about survival.
Okay, simple enough.
Now, for the middle class, and this is where the trap is so subtle and so dangerous, the arrow goes. Job provides income. And that income is immediately used to buy things that go in the liabilities column.
The house, the car, the boat.
The credit card debt for the vacation, the student loans. And then what happens? All those liabilities create more expenses. The mortgage payment, the car payment, the insurance. So the money flows from the Job to the liabilities column, which then shoots the money right out the door through the expenses column.
So they look rich because they have a lot of stuff, but they're actually cash flow poor. They're drowning in monthly payments.
They are building an elaborate machine that is designed to eat money as fast as it comes in.
Wow. Okay, so what does the cash flow pattern of a rich person look like?
It's the complete opposite. Their story starts in the asset column.
Not the job.
The job might be there, but the focus is different. They have rental properties, businesses, dividend stocks, royalties from a book or a patent. The money flows from that asset column into the income column, and they use that income to buy. What do you think?
More assets.
More assets. It's a beautiful, powerful snowball. The assets generate income, which is then used to acquire more assets, which generate even more income.
And the luxuries.
Yeah.
The fancy car, the big house.
The assets buy the luxuries. This is a fundamental shift. If a rich person wants a Porsche, they don't go buy it with their salary. That's the middle class way.
So what do?
They buy an asset, say small apartment building or a portfolio of dividend stocks. And the passive income, the cash flow from that new asset, is what pays for the Porsche lease. The asset buys the liability.
That is a completely different way of thinking about the world. The middle class buys liabilities with their own sweat and labor. The rich have their assets buy the liabilities for them.
That is the secret. That is the entire game. It's not about working harder at your job. It's about creating a system where your money works harder than you do.
This dovetails perfectly into the next lesson from the source material, which is a phrase I think we've all heard before, but it means something totally different here. The lesson is, mind your own business.
Yes. And just like with asset, this is another phrase that we need to completely redefine.
Normally, mind your own business means stop being nosy or stay out of my stuff.
Right. It's a defensive phrase.
But here, it's about a critical distinction between your profession and your business.
It is. And this confuses a lot of people. Let's take a concrete example from the source. Ray Kroc, the man who built McDonald's into a global empire. He used to go to business schools and ask the MBA students, "What business am I in?"
And they would all say the hamburger business.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Of course. And he would laugh and say, "No, my profession is selling hamburgers. My business is real estate."
Okay, you have to explain that distinction. That's not intuitive.
Your profession is what you do from 9 to 5 to pay the bills. It's your job. It's your trade. If you are a banker, you work at a bank. If you are a great cook, you cook in a restaurant. That's your profession.
Okay.
But your business is what you own in your asset column. That's the stuff that makes you wealthy. Ray Kroc knew that the real money wasn't in the burger margins. It was in owning the valuable real estate at the corner of every busy intersection in the world. The hamburgers were just the vehicle to acquire the real asset, which was the land.
So let's bring that down to the listener. Say the listener is a graphic designer. That's their profession. They're very good at it.
Correct. They trade their hours for dollars, designing logos for clients. If they stop designing, the money stops. That is a job. A high-paying one, maybe, but still a job.
So what is their business?
Well, do they have one? That's the question. If they take a portion of their salary every month and buy a portfolio of dividend stocks, that stock portfolio is their business. If they create a side hustle selling digital design templates that sell online while they sleep, that is their business.
So the advice, mind your own business, literally means don't just focus on being a better employee in your profession. Focus on building and growing your own asset column. That's your actual business.
Exactly. And the source is very, very specific on this point. Don't quit your day job yet.
Okay, that's important. This isn't about being a reckless entrepreneur and just jumping ship.
Not at all. That's a huge mistake. It's about using the stability of your profession, your 9 to 5, to fund the growth of your business, your asset column. You work your job to pay the bills and keep the lights on, and you use every extra dollar and every free hour to buy or build assets on the side.
So you're building the life raft while you're still safely on the Titanic.
That is a fantastic analogy, yes. And eventually, the life raft becomes a yacht, and you can just step off the sinking ship whenever you want. But you have to build it first, piece by piece.
Now, building that raft, acquiring those assets, it requires resources. It requires money. And there is one massive leak in most people's financial boat that we haven't talked about yet. For most people, it's their single biggest expense.
Taxes.
I can feel the listeners groaning right now. God, who great taxes! This is boring. But the source argues that understanding how taxes actually work isn't boring. It's a superpower.
It is the single biggest difference between how the rich operate and how everyone else operates. It's not about earning more. It's about keeping more of what you earn. And it all comes down to the timeline of money.
The timeline. Walk me through the two different timelines.
Okay, let's look at the employee timeline. This is probably 95% of the population. You earn $1. What happens immediately before you even see it?
The government takes a bite. Withholding tax, Social Security, Medicare. It's gone from your paycheck before it hits your bank account.
Right. Before that dollar even touches your hand, it has been taxed. So the sequence is you earn, you get taxed, and then you try to spend and save what is left. You are spending post-tax dollars.
Okay, that's familiar.
Now, let's look at the corporation or business owner timeline. This is the rich dad way. They earn $1 through their business. But because they are a business, the law allows them to spend that dollar on legitimate business expenses before the government gets to tax it.
Can you give me a concrete example? Because business expenses sounds a little abstract and maybe even shady.
It's not shady at all. It's just the rules of the game. Let's take a business lunch. If you're an employee and you take a friend to lunch to vent about work, you pay for that with money that has already been taxed. If the bill is $100, you probably had to earn about $140 to have that $100 left over to pay for it.
Ouch. So that sushi roll really cost me $140 of my life energy.
Exactly. Now, the business owner takes a potential client to that same lunch. They pay with the company card. That $100 is recorded as a business expense. It is deducted from their revenue. The business only pays tax on what is left after all the expenses are paid.
So they are paying with pre-tax dollars to get the full value of every dollar they spend on the business.
Yes. And it's not just lunch. It's the portion of your rent for your home office. It's your cell phone bill. It's the laptop you need for work. It's the car lease if the car is used for business. It's travel to a conference. The employee tries to save whatever's left after taxes. The business owner strategically spends money before taxes to grow their business, which legally reduces their taxable income.
Now, I can hear the listener thinking, well, that's great for Jeff Bezos, but I can't just start a corporation. I'm just one person working a job.
And that is another huge misconception. A corporation isn't necessarily a skyscraper with a fancy logo on it. In the eyes of the law, a corporation, or more commonly an LLC, is just a folder of legal documents. It's a legal entity that you create. It separates you from your business.
And anyone can do it.
Anyone can do it. It costs a few $100s in most places. It's a tool.
So the advice isn't commit tax fraud or be a tax cheat. It's understand the rules of the game the government has created.
Precisely. The government wants you to start businesses that create jobs. They want you to provide housing for people. So they write the tax code to give incentives rewards for those activities. The rich simply read the tax code and follow the incentives. The poor and middle class don't even know the code exists, so they just pay the bill.
This creates a really interesting picture. So we've got the mindset from the two dads. We have the vocabulary, assets versus liabilities. We have the strategy, which is mind your own business.
And the tool, which is the corporation.
Right. But there's still a missing piece because you have to actually find the assets. You have to find the deals. You can't just go to the asset store and buy one.
This is the section the source calls the rich invent money.
Which sounds a little bit like counterfeiting, but I'm going to assume it means something more like creativity.
It does. It refers to the ability to see an opportunity that other people miss. It's about developing your financial intelligence, your financial IQ.
Give me an example of inventing money. What does that look like in the real world?
Okay, let's go back to real estate. Imagine there's a rundown house in a decent neighborhood. The paint is peeling. The yard is a mess. Most people drive by and they see a problem. They think, oh, that place is a dump. What an eyesore. I wouldn't want to live there. And they just keep driving.
Right. They see the surface.
The person with financial intelligence looks at that same house and they see the numbers. They see that the house is priced 30% below market value simply because it looks bad. They know that a $10,000 paint job and $5,000 in landscaping will instantly increase the value of the house by $50,000.
So they're manufacturing equity through insight.
They are manufacturing equity. They put the deal together. They might not even use their own money. They might find an investor who wants a good return or use a bank loan. They control the asset, fix the problem, and they have essentially invented $35,000 out of thin air by solving a problem nobody else wanted to solve.
So the average person waits for opportunity to knock on the door. The rich person goes out and builds the door, the frame, and the opportunity.
100%. But to do this, you need skills. You can't just guess your way to wealth.
And this leads to some of the most fascinating career advice in the book, which is so counterintuitive. Work to learn, don't work to earn.
This is so tough for young people to hear, especially when they're graduating from college. The temptation is to just take the job with the highest starting salary. Chase the biggest number you can get.
Of course. You have student loans breathing down your neck. You want to get your own apartment. You want the lifestyle you see on Instagram.
The rich dad advises the exact opposite. He says, in your early career, you should deliberately take the job that will teach you the skills you lack, even if it pays less. He recommends looking at a job as a paid seminar. You're getting paid to learn.
So what kind of skills are we talking about here?
Well, the source lists a few key ones. The management of cash flow, which is accounting. The management of systems, which is like organizational skills.
Yeah.
And the management of people. But the number one skill, the one the source harps on over and over and over again, is sales and communication.
Sales. Ugh. I feel like there's a huge stigma around sales. People think of the pushy used car guy in the plaid suit trying to sell you something you don't need.
They do. It's a scary word for a lot of people. Why? Because at its core, sales equals the possibility of rejection. And human beings are hardwired to be terrified of rejection.
We want to be liked. We want to be part of the tribe.
Exactly. But look at it this way. You can have the greatest idea in the world. You can have the cure for cancer. But if you cannot sell it to investors to fund the research, if you cannot communicate its benefits to the public, if you cannot persuade people to take it, that idea dies with you in your lab.
So sales isn't just about hawking a product. It's the ability to influence, to persuade, to lead.
It is the single most important skill for success. The author talks about how he deliberately joined Xerox when he was young, not because he loved copiers, but because everyone knew they had the best sales training program in the country. He said he was terrified of knocking on cold doors. He was one of the worst salesmen at first. He almost quit every week.
But he stuck with it.
He stuck with it. Not to become a great copier salesman for life, but to overcome his personal fear of rejection. Once he conquered that fear, he knew he would be unstoppable in any business he started.
So if you're listening and you're feeling stuck in your career, maybe the move isn't to look for a better paycheck right away. Maybe the move is to join a network marketing company on the side, or take a sales job for a year, or even just join a local Toastmasters club. Go build the school of communication.
That is an asset that no one can ever take away from you. It lives inside you.
We've covered a lot of the mechanics now. This is a great toolkit. But I want to circle back to the psychology, because you can know all of this. You can be able to recite the difference between an asset and a liability in your sleep and still do absolutely nothing.
That's the reality for most people. Financial literacy is maybe 80% mindset and psychology and only 20% mechanics. The math is simple. The human part is hard.
So what stops people?
There are real barriers. And the biggest one, the one that paralyzes almost everyone, is fear.
We talked about the fear of not having enough money, which gets you in the rat race. But there's also the fear of losing money, which keeps you from ever trying to get out.
That's the one. What if I invest in the stock market and it crashes the next day? What if I buy a rental property and the tenant trashes the place and never pays rent?
What if I try to start a business and I fail and all my friends think I'm a loser? What if I look stupid?
That's a huge one. The poor dad mindset handles this fear by playing it safe. He avoids risk at all costs. He stuffs his money in a low-interest savings account. But by avoiding all risk, he guarantees he will never gain any ground. Inflation will eat his savings alive.
So he's guaranteed to lose slowly.
A slow, comfortable loss. The rich dad handles fear not by avoiding it, but by managing it.
What's the difference between avoiding risk and managing risk?
Avoiding risk is just not playing the game. It's sitting on the sidelines. Managing risk is analyzing the deal before you get in. It's saying, okay, what is the absolute worst case scenario here? If that happens, can I survive it? What is the most likely scenario? And what is the potential upside? It's using knowledge and education to lower the risk before you ever commit a dollar.
Okay, so fear is number one. What's another big barrier?
Cynicism. The chicken littles. The people who always have a reason why something won't work.
Oh, we all know them. The sky is falling. The economy is going to climb. That'll never work. You can't do that here.
It's very easy to be a cynic. You sound smart when you're cynical. You sound worldly and intelligent.
It's a defense mechanism. If you never try, you can never fail.
Exactly. But cynics never win. They never make money. The Source has a great line. Cynics criticize and winners analyze. Criticism blinds you to opportunity. It's a filter that only lets you see the problems. Analysis opens your eyes to the possibilities. When everyone else is selling in a panic because they are afraid, the analyzer is calmly buying because they see the long-term value.
So let's bring this down to the ground level. We've got listeners right now who are fired up. They get the concepts, but they are also feeling really overwhelmed. They might have $500 in the bank, not $500,000. They aren't going to go buy an apartment building tomorrow. How do they actually start? What is step one?
This is where the mantra "start small" is absolutely crucial. You don't need $1 million to start. You just need to start building the muscle, the habit.
What does that look like practically? Give me something I can do today.
Okay. It looks like taking that very first step to reverse the cash flow in your life. Maybe you have $100 left over this month. The old you, the middle-class mindset you, would spend it on a nice dinner or a new pair of shoes.
The liability.
The liability that gives you a quick dopamine hit. The new you takes that $100 and you put it into a fractional share of a low-cost S&P 500 index fund.
It doesn't feel very exciting. Doesn't give me the same rush as the new shoes.
It's not about the excitement. It's about rewiring your brain. It's about the habit. You are sending a powerful signal to yourself. I'm a person who buys assets now. You are breaking that dopamine loop of spending and starting a new loop of ownership.
And what about education? Is that part of starting small?
That is the best start small strategy of all. Before you put a single dime into the market or into a piece of real estate, put time into your brain. Read this book summary we're talking about. Read the whole book. Read others. Listen to podcasts. Watch videos. Understand the vocabulary.
Because knowledge reduces risk.
Absolutely. If you are ignorant, every investment is risky. It's just gambling. If you are informed and educated, risk is manageable. It's a calculated decision.
So the very first asset you should always buy is a better, more educated brain. 100%. The ROI on financial education is infinite. It pays you back for the rest of your life.
I want to talk about the end game. Because we're doing all this work, we're changing our mindset, we're stressing about assets and liabilities. What is the finish line? What is the actual goal for the zero knowledge listener who is just starting this journey?
The goal isn't being rich in the way we see in movies, like Scrooge McDuck swimming in a vault of gold coins. That's not a real goal. The goal is passive income.
Income that arrives every month, whether you get out of bed or not.
Yes. Income from your assets. And the ultimate metric, the finish line, is a state called financial freedom.
Okay, define that for me mathematically.
It's a very simple, elegant formula. You are financially free when your total passive income from your assets is greater than your total living expenses.
Passive income is greater than living expenses. That's it.
That's the formula for winning the game. Let's put numbers to it. Let's say your life costs $4,000 a month. That's your rent, food, car, insurance, Netflix, everything.
Yeah.
If you can build or buy enough assets, dividend stocks, rent checks from a property, royalties from a book you wrote, that they collectively pay you $4,000 a month, you are free.
You don't have to be a multimillionaire. You just have to cover your nut, as they say.
You just have to cover your nut. Exactly. At that precise moment, your job becomes optional. You can keep working if you love what you do, or you can quit and travel the world. Or you can start a new business without the stress of needing it to pay your bills. You don't have to work to survive anymore.
You have exited the rat race.
You have exited the rat race. You have bought back your time. And time, ultimately, is the only real wealth any of us have.
That brings it all full circle, back to the story of the two dads. The biological father, the poor dad, he worked his entire life in a high-status job, but he worked until the day he died. He had a great title, but he never had freedom.
And the rich dad, the 8th grade dropout, he had freedom. He built a machine, an ecosystem of assets that took care of him and his family. The narrator, the young boy, had to choose which set of advice to follow, which path to walk down. And that is the choice that every single listener has right now.
And it's not a choice you make just once. It's a choice you make every single time you get a paycheck.
Every single time. Do you use that money to buy a liability that makes you poorer? Or do you use it to buy an asset that makes you richer?
So we always like to leave our listeners with a challenge, something tangible they can do right now to start this process.
Okay, here is the challenge. I want you to do a simple audit of your own life. Tonight, go look at your bank statement or your credit card statement for the last month. Find your last 3 significant discretionary purchases.
So not your rent, not your groceries, the stuff you chose to buy.
Exactly. The new shoes, the expensive gadget, the concert tickets, the subscription box you forgot you had.
Yeah.
Write them down in a column. And then ask yourself, with brutal honesty, using the definitions we've established, did I buy an asset? Did this purchase put money in my pocket? Or did I buy a liability? Did this purchase remove money from my pocket now and in the future?
And don't lie to yourself. Don't say the fancy car was an investment because it gets you to work.
Be ruthless with yourself. The answer to that question for those 3 items will tell you which dad is currently guiding your financial life. It will tell you which cash flow pattern you are living.
And if you don't like the answer,
well, now you know the definitions. Now you know the rules of the game. You can start making a different choice tomorrow with the very next dollar you earn.
it's about unlearning that old script and starting to write a new one for yourself. This has been a massive deep dive, but I really feel like we've only just scratched the surface of what's possible when you just change your financial mindset.
It's a lifelong journey for sure, but the very first step is simply knowing the difference between an asset and a liability. If you know that, you know more than most people.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. Go mind your own business.
See you next time.